168 days until the
10 seconds.
anniversary of the Oklahoma City bombing. Live from the Oklahoma City National Memorial and Museum, here's Michael Smerconish.
So at the luncheon today, the Day 1 luncheon, marking 168 days prior to April 19, 2020, the 25th anniversary of the Oklahoma City bombing, one day for each person killed, the featured speaker will be Pulitzer Prize-winning, New York Times best-selling author and historian and author, I think most significantly for our purposes, of the book The Soul of America, The Battle for Our Better Angels, Jon Meacham. What a privilege to have you here. Thank you so much. And Jon, the scene behind, I know we're doing radio, but it's hard for me to describe to a listening audience what exists right outside beneath us.
Well, the privilege is all mine. This is sacred ground in the heart of the country. The deadliest day prior to September 11th, outside of a state of declared war. And I just walked through the gallery of honor with the 168 victims, and it just grabs you at the core. These were folks who were going about their daily lives, many of them carrying out the mission of the American founding, which was to ordain and establishment of government in search of a more perfect union. And then the most ferocious force of hate and violence strikes on an ordinary street. And it shouldn't take that scale of tragedy to remind us of what's important, but that's the nature of humanity. This has been true since Homer chose the Iliad. Homer didn't tell a story about peacetime, he told a story about wartime. And this is a war memorial, a war for the hearts and minds of what we should be, and then all too tragically what we sometimes are.
Your most recent book, The Soul of America, you were inspired to write because of the rise of some of the same type of sentiments that we see outside this window, the aftermath of Charlottesville and other events that are transpiring all around us. It kind of comes full circle and tells me we've not yet solved this issue.
And never will. The forces that led to the tragedy here, and then, of course, the heroism, the bravery, the forgiveness, the endurance, which is so much a part of Oklahoma City. But the forces that led xenophobia, racism, nativism, extremism, isolationism, white nationalism, these are forces that flow in American life. And we're never going to completely defeat them because we live in a fallen and frail world. Our task is to force them to ebb as much as possible. And we're living in a time where, in many ways, and this is painful, God, it's painful to say, but a lot of the threat of what we see now can, in fact, in a historical sense, be traced to what happened here in the middle of 1990.
How so?
The building was brought down, these lives were cut short because someone believed in an un-American, racially driven, hate-filled view of the world. The people in that building were part of an imperfect but noble experiment in living together in a republic where we could disagree and disagree vociferously, but we're not supposed to disagree violently. And that's the immovable line that was crossed by the bombers. And so the forces, though, that led to that Ryder truck going right there are still part of the country.
Do you see a particular historical parallel, something that happened in the book? You talk, The Soul of America, you talk about things that have occurred in American history and try and provide some context. What transpired out that window, does it remind Jon Meacham of anything in particular?
Orangeburg, South Carolina, 1945, 46.
What happened?
There was a young GI, an African American, who had come back from serving his country, defeating tyranny around the world. He was trying to get on a bus, and a bunch of white supremacists, segregationists, blinded him, gouged out his eyes, because he wanted to get on a bus. Harry Truman heard about it and said, "My God, I didn't know things were so bad as that." That's part of what led Harry Truman to become the first president to address the NAACP, the president who entered the military, who sent a 10-point civil rights plan to Congress that began in many ways the process that culminated 20 years later in 1965 with the end of legalized Jim Crow. Things that happen far from the centers of power are the things that ultimately attract the attention of those who are in power and present the test, not just for the person in office, but for all of us. Because let's be honest, politicians are far more often mirrors of who we are rather than molders. The test in 1945, the test
I think that if we were to poll the American people and say which has caused more American deaths since 9/11, we'd get the wrong answer.
Totally.
Why is that the case?
Because it's hard to confront that we would kill our own. Isn't it easier to think those people over there are coming to get us, as opposed to
One of us?
Yeah. And here's the thing: are they one of us? This is a complicated question. They are, and that's a painful and perhaps controversial thing. There might be somebody who would say, "No, these are not. This isn't us. This isn't who we are." Come here and tell me that isn't who we are. Of course it is. The battle is, how do you make that minimal? Yeah, I'm ready if you want to do it. But politics is fallible and comparable. So much in our politics now. If they don't like the president, or they don't like, if they didn't like President Obama, whatever it is, it's kind of, they say, "Oh, that's not who we are." Well, we're a lot of things. Right? I mean, we're George Wallace and we're George Washington. We're George Herbert Walker Bush, and who we have to resign from the NRA because they tried to raise money off this.
The jackbooted thugs exchange.
And George W. Bush would say, use the Google machine to George H.W. Bush resigns NRA. And you get a letter where he says, anyone who attacks those who defended this country, one of his agents was here, former agents, this is not something I can be part of. And the test I always use on any of this is, what do we build monuments to in this country? This is a memorial. It was an unimaginable kind of day, although you don't have to tell Oklahoma City, it's unimaginable because they have to get through it. But when we build monuments, we tend to build them to people who open doors, who extend a hand, not who clench a fist. Drive through Washington, D.C. What do you see? You see the Washington Monument, the man who defended the sacred fire of liberty, who gave up ultimate power at a moment when he could have become a dictator. You see a monument to Thomas Jefferson, who for all his faults wrote the most important sentence ever rendered in English, that we're all created equal and endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights. Is there anything more American at this point than Thomas Jefferson and Martin Luther King stare in perpetuity across the tidal basin at each other? That's America right there. The World War II memorial. You think the men who hit Omaha Beach, or fought on Iwo Jima, or were ready to go into the home islands of Japan, were doing it so they could build walls? So that they could foreclose the possibilities of democratic life? No. They were doing it to liberate. We honor liberators, not captors. But there are those who do the unspeakable.
We'll come back to Oklahoma City with Pulitzer Prize winner and New York Times bestselling author. The book, by the way, I think that is most on point that he has written, The Soul of America, The Battle for Our Better Angels, Jon Meacham, in just a moment. Like